Welcome once more to Spore War After the War, our weekly analysis and retrospective series examining the most recent episode of the Spore War Actual play here on Dungeon Scrawlers that hopefully you just watched and may be joining us afterwards. My name is Jason Collins. I am a freelance comic book writer, tabletop role-playing game designer, actual play producer, and streamer. I am the producer and editor for the Spore War series. You can find links to my work, the other actual plays I've been a part of, on my link tree at digital_Collins. And it's every week, of course, I am proud to introduce the game runner for Spore War, Seneschal.
Hi, everyone.
I had, personally, professionally, I guess, in the real world, I had the week from hell. So I can honestly say I'm not sure what the hell we just recorded. It was either Spore War Book 1, Episode 4, or Spore 1, Book 1, Episode 5. I've lost count. So, admitting that fully up front, I'd have to go back into my recording history and verify which episode that just was, because I am a little distracted with just lots of other things happening in the world, which happens and is reasonable. But needless to say, it was an excellent episode. I hope the audience that's watching this may take some time to watch that. And there's quite a few things that we could sort of jump into, but I'm just going to focus on the fun thing for me, which was watching your players run roughshod over you from start to finish of the entire episode.
An absolute catastrophe. If GMs side with the NPCs and want to defeat the party, this was a ruined, one-sided, completely lopsided combat, and I lost in every capacity. Fortunately, that's not how these games run.
It is somewhere written down, or at least somewhere in the common consciousness, that it is supposed to be collaborative. So
yes,
they collaborated with each other perfectly tonight. So that was great.
Astonishingly perfect performance when you expect that the dice won't cooperate with your perfect plan, but they absolutely did.
Yeah. So lots of interesting things, lots of interesting mechanics, which was really cool, which we can certainly talk about. But I'm just gonna open with that, and I'm just gonna let you tell us and the audience watching, of course, your takeaways from that. What made you most proud, and what you enjoyed about that episode, because it really was remarkable that in terms of it had the full swing from a full diplomatic role play environment all the way to a tactical combat encounter environment. Kind of the best of all worlds for this episode, which was lovely, in a nice tight time frame, a good runtime for the episode as well. But just open with that. Just tell us your thoughts and tell us what your takeaway was.
So, before I talk about this episode, I'm going to talk about the lead up to this episode, which was this is a diplomatic, social, political chapter, bookended by a combat at the beginning and a combat at the end. And for that reason, it's a well-designed chapter, but it's the social stuff in the middle is so dense. And I completely misjudged how many episodes it would take to complete that.
Yes.
I think we spent 3 episodes. I think this is episode 5.
I think it is 5, but yeah, because of that.
I think we spent 3 episodes on the social, political stuff, the diplomatic stuff, and if not more. We might be even. It could be 18. If you told me it was 18, I'd believe you.
That's right.
And I was a little bit dismayed because we had a break that the audience didn't see for personal life stuff, and when you have sort of that social political stuff dragging on week to week, if you don't have fully engaged players, or if you can't manage to keep it interesting, it can jar the momentum. We talked about that in a previous episode of After the War. And so I came into this episode knowing there was a combat that I didn't want to rush to. I wanted to make sure we got there, but I didn't want to rush through those previous episodes of social stuff because I felt kind of important. and it got the players to buy into that.
Mm-hmm. It really did, and what it the lead up when we're talking about the lead up before we even talk about this episode was they got to discover both for themselves as players and then for the sake of this story the importance of that diplomatic lead up. The fact that, like you said, we talked about in early episodes where the Guardians of Green Gold becoming the heroes of Green Gold, becoming heroes in the nation of Kionin and being tasked at the highest level by the nobility of the royalty of Kionin, to act as their agent and to negotiate a difficult treaty with opposing nations at odds, nations opposed, nations with conflicting interests.
Yeah.
And convince all of them that this is the most dire and important threat that they're going to face and that they need to act together. Do it on the side in secret, and still in a way protect their own reputations, not burn all that goodwill that they've generated up to this point. The players it just leaned into that and have just loved it. So yeah, 3 episodes to get here, sure, but 3 episodes well spent. Hopefully for the players, hopefully for some of the audience. Some of the audience might be here for the hack and slash, and that's we love to have you join us. We understand those diplomatic scenes can be a bit slower, but some of the audience might love that role play. They might love that political intrigue. They might be big fans of Galarian and want to see it dive into that and the nature of those relationships. 3 episodes to get here was time well spent because it helped the players really absorb and understand the gravity of what they're up against and why it was so important. And all of that then had the payoff now of tonight's episode where they really got to understand why that was so important.
And in the preludes, when I built up those NPCs, the patrons that ended up, some of them becoming villains that they had to overcome, I felt really strongly that that was worth the build up there. And so I have to say that the familiarity they have now with the 6 emissaries of those 6 nations, by taking the time to do it, they know the personalities of those 6 emissaries who will factor in later. And they know what those neighboring countries are, whereas someone not experienced with the Lake and Carthan region of Galarian may not. So I think it was worth doing. And that led us, though, to a real appetite for an action scene on the part of the players.
Absolutely. Can I just say before we transition to that, before we transition to this episode, we talk up our players a lot. We boast about our players a lot. We compliment our players a lot. We talk about how wonderful they are and how great they are. The audience that's been along for the ride may agree with us and go, okay, yeah, there go the 2 old men again, yapping about how great their players are. But in our Discord chat, in our game prep, Lex posted like a double post, full character count on Discord, breaking down each of the emissaries, breaking down their positions, breaking down where they needed to be and what they needed to be done, with no prompting from you or I to do that as a reminder or refresher for the rest of the players. Just did that because Lex is enjoying the hell out of the game and wanted to summarize that for the benefit of our other players. That's why our players kick ass.
They do kick ass, and they're engaged. And I want to say a couple of things about that. One is, I spent the time before we got into the social encounter to lay out the emissaries and the nations, because I felt without some background they wouldn't do that, and I did that in the Discord, and I'm so glad I did, because it got that back and forth. It led to I'm not taking credit for what Lex did, but I think the GM and the players both being willing to invest a little bit of their time and energy in the love of the game, to try and make the experience better on game day between game sessions, is something that works for a lot of groups. And I know in our home game, the Discord is not always active, but if there's really dynamic stuff coming, having a plan of action, like the Discord that the doesn't show up on the stream, but it does really, without shortcutting anything for the episode, it does really help make the episode run smoother. Mm-hmm. And this week was the best example we've had of that so far because of Lex's participation in that regard.
Absolutely.
I also want to talk about something. Brendan Lee Mulligan is a game runner that I consider the best in the world. I really admire his work. He's an inspiration to me personally. But he talks about, he pays it forward in the sense he talks about what makes a good GM, which is, basically it's part of the reason that I think the more GMs who talk like this about why they run the game and how they run the game and what they think about when they're running the game, I think it contributes to the art of being a GM. And the idea is to encourage people who are afraid of running a game to get a way to acquire some of the thinking that gets you in that spot where you feel confident enough to do it. But one of his comments when he was asked, I saw a compilation of his comments on GMing, and one of them was, if the people playing and the people running are not having fun, then it's just not going to be enjoyable to watch on a stream. That is the key element. And I think the players every week have had fun. We're tired. We have day jobs. All of us have other things going on. But this is invigorating for me and clearly for the players as well. And that I think I'm ever so grateful for. And we do talk up the players, but it's because they're great players.
I won't name names to protect their privacy because it was a private comment made to us after the stream was over. But one of the players tonight said to the rest of the group, "I love this group." At the end of our session, as we were literally wrapping up and signing off for the night, and that's after us just coming back from that extended break, and we're just getting our rhythm back, getting back into the recording schedule. We've got more interruptions coming up that might delay our recording schedule a little bit, but hopefully not delay too much of the production. But just unprompted, that they just expressed, like, after being away for all that break, hadn't lost interest, hasn't lost enthusiasm, hasn't lost the spark and the creativity to want to play, and then just verbalized that to the group unprompted. And that was just an amazing compliment. That just reflected the chemistry that everybody's had.
That's right. It is a lot of great chemistry, but it's also just we lucked out on the draw of players, honestly. It could have been so much worse. Chemistry, you can't forge it when it's not there, and it's not to say that players are bad players, but that the connection doesn't work. But the feeling's entirely mutual. They're great players. I enjoy playing with them, and I don't think this will be the last time that we play with some or all of them. I think there's other stuff that I'd love to play in a game, and sometimes I wish I was on the other side of the table with them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Especially when you have a combat like we had this week.
Absolutely. That's right. So, what do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the success of them securing all of these delegates to the political agreements that they needed to go, or do you want to cut to the fun stuff and the meat and potatoes?
It's all fun stuff, but yeah, let's start with the diplomatic side, just to go in the order of the episode.
No, that's exactly right. So the culmination of these 3 episodes leading up to this point, what I liked about this episode, and I hope that fans of the show, if there's people that have been sticking with us and watching week to week, fans of Pathfinder 2nd Edition that are either curious to learn more about it or are playing it themselves or enjoy it themselves, because we got to use the mechanic. And what was the name of this mechanic that they called, which was the scoring?
Social influence, I think.
Something to that effect, to score diplomatic points based on your success of a series of activities, which you revealed sort of as part of the summary of that resolution. A series of activities that score you points, or you don't score your points if you're not successful at swaying them or including them or intimidating them or complimenting them into going your way. And they excelled with pretty much all of the delegates almost maxing out this additional mechanic that Paizo has put into the adventure path to allow you to sort of have a shortcut, to not have to role play out every scene, to not have to roll diplomacy for every scene. There's just a way of keeping score, essentially, of how successful you are. And obviously, the more engaged your players are, the more successful the group is going to be in terms of achieving that. But also, it does a bit of the heavy lifting for the game runner to not have to come up with every motivation for the emissaries. They've built that into the adventure path itself to give you an example of what they're willing to do right away, what they're not willing to do, or what their line in the sand is that they're drawing, and then how the player characters can overcome that or do an end run around it and still get them on board for that. So I liked seeing that mechanic come to fruition. It was really cool. We played with some variations on that theme in the Age of Ashes campaign that we ran at the home table, but I appreciate that Paizo's taken the time to include these other mechanics to essentially summarize sort of an extended series of scenes in a way that you can cut it short and just leave it up to a couple of rolls, add up the points and say, okay, based on your series of meetings with the emissaries, here's where you end up. And then you can move on to the next part of the chapter, or of course you can stretch it out and use their mechanic and their sort of brief political descriptions to change those into full-fledged scenes and have dinners and banquets and walks in the gardens and all sorts of negotiations based on the skills of the players and the skills roles of the player characters.
Yeah, it's a good system. I have to say, the way that it's structured in this particular module, it is a bit intimidating to prepare for because it is so complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, that made it for me. I have a really demanding day job, and for me, it was extremely challenging to find the time to really feel comfortable running that. But it was so worthwhile because they've created this seven-party negotiation with dire consequences and irreconcilable differences,
That's right.
and finding a way to navigate that without a system like this would be very difficult. And primarily, it would be difficult in terms of finding out what would be a fair way to arbitrate failure as a GM.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't get full success. Well, we did all these things. Yeah, but I just didn't feel you could have done it. Like it would be really difficult without a system. And if I were writing a module like this, I would never create this complicated a political situation without some discomfort or an a bit willingness to hand wave or parts of it. I wouldn't develop out of whole cloth this social influence system that Pathfinder 2e has, because it would be enormous extra work. But they did a really good job of creating the system, and they did a really good job in chapter 1 of Spore War implementing it in a way that was fascinating. And you still have to run with it a little bit, right? Especially because we were cutting out some content. Like there was a Hydra chop thing where they were supposed to fight this wooden Hydra as a competition, and it got a little bit, I thought, unnecessary in that it would have been a lot of time for very little payoff for this group
Mm-hmm.
streaming presentation. But even so, like they came up with their, well, we'll talk about that separately, but the system itself, it works really well. And as long as you're a little bit fluid and flexible with it.
I feel like the reason they probably include some of those random, not random, but smaller encounters where like it's a test of skill, whether it's your martial skills or diplomatic skills or social skills, whatever. And they have descriptions of different scenes. And I remember doing this in the book 5 of Age of Ashes, where you're in the cosmopolitan city of Katapesh, and there's all these different social tasks that you can do, and some of them are a jailbreak, and some of them are hosting a party, and some of them are going and negotiating and rescuing a prized stallion for the local farrier and stuff, right? Like all the different sort of different things they do, which I thought was clever, that it kind of would appeal to different character sort of
Yes.
builds and skill sets and so forth, that everybody would sort of have different areas that they're good at, so that not everything has to be a social test, not everything has to be a combat test. So I imagine in this adventure path, it's probably the same philosophy in mind, that they are giving, the way I think of it is that they're giving game masters, game runners, an example to follow, to either use whole cloth. I don't, I'm not creative enough to want to come up with this on my own. I'll just use this example they give me in the book, and at least that way we can point to it and say, well, this was one of the tests that give you the score that you achieved, right? So they've kind of built that into it as far as that goes.
Yeah.
And I remember that they had a similar but different mechanic in the Age of Ashes adventure path, which I didn't score it. I didn't add it all up as you did tonight and really illustrate the strength of it, only because we more or less at our home table maxed out most of those.
We
most
blew
of those...
that out of the water. And that happened today too, right? They had some ideas that would have resulted in more points than the system accounted for, and you have to be flexible to do that with good players, because you can't just ignore their creativity and their efforts and say, well, it's not on the list.
Exactly.
It's an unsatisfying way to run a game. You just cannot do that. I think if you were running your own game that you had written yourself, you would not go to this extent, but you would more freeform it in terms of giving the player characters the problems, the conflicts, the irreconcilable differences, and you could still run it really easily with just letting them be creative with a good group of players. The system just gives you, again, that metric for justifying, sorry, you didn't get a great result, if you feel the players haven't come up with something creative and they haven't also done the things in the book, then you're left with, well, okay, we're going to go down the path of this is a suboptimal result.
I want to talk just for a moment before we segue into the second half of the session tonight, because this was something that I really enjoyed seeing come to fruition. I gave you a hard time how the players ran roughshod over you tonight. They ran roughshod over you diplomatically. They ran roughshod over you with their crafting, and they ran roughshod with you over their, both martial and magical prowess in terms of the encounter that had up. But we had a quick discussion both in game and out of character when we had a little technical pause tonight, talking about the power of a thoughtful gift and how that can be so meaningful and often is not addressed or included in the structure of the adventure path. It's not something that they really describe. Sometimes there'll be NPC gifts that the adventure will describe, that the NPC, you'll get a gift from the NPC if you particularly impress them. But we've talked before. We've talked many times, of course, over these after the war sessions about the power of the dice and the dice helping tell the story. And when you roll a critical success on a crafting roll to create a unique, one of a kind gift to give to an NPC that you were seeking to influence for this incredibly difficult negotiation that's taking place, that's hugely powerful and so gratifying as a player if you as the game runner handle that right and really recognize, like, okay, the dice just helped told part of the story. This is a part of the story that not even the adventure path saw coming, but should have an extraordinary outcome because of it.
Correct. Yep, absolutely. It was fun too. That was part of the reason. And I enjoyed the spontaneous decision to basically say, you spend money on it, you tell me how much you're spending on it, I'll give you a bonus, but I'm not going to tell you the result until you tell me how much you spend.
That's right.
And then they get the money back anyways because the situation is such that it's fine.
But it also showed the mindset of the players. They're like, well, I'm not going to hoard this tangible asset of gold. I'm going to use my available resources because this is on a really important moment. Put everything we've got into it, all of our skill, all of our aspirations, and all of our resources to make it the best it can possibly be. And then the dice just elevated it past that.
Wasn't that great? The fact that Ren decided to spend that money to pursue success for the party was, I think, spoke really highly of him as a player, and I'd be calling him out in specific for that if it weren't for the fact that all of the players do remarkable things.
Yes.
Again, I'm not just talking up our players. They're great.
So they're great, and at the start of the session, there is a very karmic comment you make about dice rolls and about rolling better than the last session.
Yep.
And karma has a habit of coming around biting you in the ass. And so let's talk about the second half. Let's talk about the inevitable twist that occurs when you're assembling all of these opposing forces in a tight space, and inevitably.
First let's talk about the two sessions in a row. The one before, I think it was.
Yes.
Where
Yes.
What could possibly go wrong? And they mostly roll 1 to 4 the entire session.
Yes. Yes.
And in fact, I think the NPCs did as well. And this time I make some joke at the beginning in the introduction about how, this is hopefully going to be a course on how to roll better than last time. And they absolutely turf me.
It wasn't a course. It was a clinic.
It was a clinic. It was a triage clinic for game masters whose feelings are hurt by their players.
And how quickly critical successes can turn the tide of something that's come up.
Well, in the 1s and 2s I rolled on initiative and other things, like it was a completely lopsided victory for sure.
Yes.
End of session. We don't need to talk about this anymore. Let me heal from my trauma.
This is your therapy. So you paid for the full hour. You to stay for the full hour.
All right.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, do we need to register Briala as a dangerous weapon now at this point? Like, what do we have to do to kind of warn the rest of Keonan to keep 60 feet away or something?
I don't think we want to panic people, and taking any kind of formal action would just have that effect.
It has to be like the logging trucks with like the orange ribbon on the back that you just keep your distance.
I think it's more like you just pretend it's not happening until you can't ignore it anymore.
Right.
Multiple critical successes against big bads with disintegrates ever since she got the spell.
And not exactly like, flaunting it, but just key moments. Okay, I better give this a try. This seems really important. And then, just boom.
Powdered.
I wanted you to describe this. I wanted to describe the disintegrate going off, black ash just exploding and falling down. But I wanted the boots to fall to the floor. I wanted them to be magic boots, and the boots fall to the floor alongside all the other gear. Of course,
yeah, that would have been funny. I like the potions crashing.
Oh, that was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Exactly.
There goes your loot.
Yeah. So yeah, just really and again, spoiler alert, we let them level to 12 at the end of this session now, so they're going to be another small boost as well. But the power of level 11 and what that did on the beach and what it's doing now here, and not just the potency of the spells and the magic that they have at their disposal, the creativity of which they are using that magic has just been excellent.
Yes.
So some good examples for 2e players, if just in terms of thinking of ways you can use this magic to do different things and not just have it be the lowest common denominator, but really change the tide of an encounter.
Let's talk for a moment about how crazy Wall of Stone is. It is.
You and Briella were having a quick conversation during the session about how Disintegrate no longer destroys all the magic items on the enemy that you are facing. So they've pulled back the potency of Disintegrate a little bit as additions have gone up. But Wall of Stone on the other hand, no longer a straight line.
No longer a straight line is the big part that really surprised me. I hadn't looked at that spell in 2e, hadn't seen it cast yet. It's got hardness 14 and 50 hit points. It's a problem. If
I'm gonna, at this point right now as you're talking, I'm gonna splice in the image of Gwen drawing the line around, and then your face. I'm gonna splice that in right now.
I'm really
to this
curious
point.
to see, because a couple people commented on my facial expression during that moment.
Tired of this. Briella takes out the staff, does like the Anakin Skywalker like flip up with her staff,
right,
and casts Wall of Stone, and immediately creates a wall that I'll have to draw out. I'm trying to think if he would be mad to be on the other side.
Who?
Last wall.
Oh.
Last wall. We want his help.
He can come around to us then, but I don't know if you all can see this.
Oh my god. Yeah.
120 feet long?
I have 120 feet, and it's 20 feet tall. And I'm gonna have us fight these guys on this. I'm going to create a wall that separates these delegates, pushing them apart.
Oh!
Wall.
Leave a gap for last wall to just like push the crap out of anybody.
He's gotta come around to us. We're not putting him. We're not letting him go in against 3 people.
He's thinking his bottleneck. Oh.
Yes, please, and thank you.
And I'm going to just put this man in a cage. I don't know if anyone's able to draw this for me. I don't know if this will stay if I try to draw it.
I think I can.
Oh my god.
I can.
But
hang on.
This is.
I got it.
Hold still for a sec.
Yeah.
Puts him in the Notre Dame maze.
So anybody that didn't catch the episode when they watch this after the war, they'll understand the gravity of the significance of what we're talking about and just how creative it was and what a wrench it threw into your plans.
They had an excellent plan. I'm talking about the bad guys here. They had an excellent plan. Disrupt the thing, kill everyone. They did not. They'd heard about the Disintegrate. They're like, well, that's a risk. But no one told them about Wall of Stone.
That's right.
Way more dangerous than Disintegrate, it turns out, in this instance.
And how a Wall of Stone is a death sentence for all the reinforcements hanging out in the hallway trying to come in.
That moment where inadvertently she blocked the door through which the reinforcements are programmed to arrive. Absolutely. Keeping the session on time.
Exactly right, and it made me very happy to know that was like the guards got. You talked about not giving the adventure to the guards. Well, the guards got to participate in this one and actually help mop up some of the forces because there was nowhere for them to go.
There was nowhere for them to go. It was funny and it was brilliant and it was effective and the question of whether a nat 1 or a nat 20 is better for the narrative is a debate that GMs have all the time. But really, you need both. You need the highs and the lows for it to feel like your actions matter as a player character. You need to know that you can fail dramatically and embarrassingly and kind of be a real problem and even affect survivability. You have to think that thinking about your actions matter. It's not just a matter of you going, okay, well, we go to the next room, tell us what happens. It has to be more engaging than that. And the brilliant thing is the game is more engaging than that. And that's why. Because the dice help tell the story, but they also help create that dynamism that makes it matter.
Quick sidebar, because you as a player have had characters with a close connection to Callistra, the goddess of vengeance and justice, and other portfolios.
I have.
Will Callistra have a reaction to her temple in Keonin, or in Greengold, I guess I should say, being somewhat disrespected?
So the priests are going to be pissed. They're going to be absolutely furious. And I think that they're going to be difficult to reconcile because they will have this built-in concern of if they're too easy on the players, Callistra will be displeased with them.
That's what I wondered. That's what I was...
So this is going to be hard.
Because this would be something that I'm sure is not in the adventure path in any sense in terms of the consequences for that, where you wreck the tavern and then you just leave the next day and you're on your way, leaving the poor owner to deal with the mess. Happens all the time. But in this case, just because I know and you know the significance of Callistra as one of the deities in Golarion, and just because you as a player have spent a lot of time reading up on Callistra and having characters that worship Callistra, or at least honor her in your actions, you'd be very familiar with that. And I just there's a chance I figured you would have a bit of something in your back pocket, as like, in addition to all the other shit going down, by the way, you have to make a little bit of a mea culpa here as well.
Yeah, I did foreshadow it because I thought it was only fair that the player characters recognize who the goddess was that they pissed off and maybe do a little Golarion wiki research as to, wait, what's he talking about? Yeah.
And for anybody watching after the war with us right now, wondering like, well, why would a goddess care that there was a brawl in one of their temples and stuff? Like they're too sort of high and mighty to pay attention to the day-to-day of mere mortals, and that will be true. But we've had a discussion in the last couple of After the Wars. We've had discussions in game that you'll have seen in some of the most recent streams, where we've talked about this rarefied air that the player characters are starting to occupy as they've hit now level 11, and now after tonight level 12. That is a significantly high level in terms of a Golarion adventurer. It is a significantly high level in terms of the potency of the magic, the skill you have, the influence that you have. These are characters that have now literally broken bread with the queen of the elves of Keonin. So they're going to attract attention from high and powerful mortals. They may even attract attention from time to time, especially as the stakes of what they're doing is high enough, from divine influences as well, because they do pay attention to what happens to their highest ranking, most powerful, most devoted followers. And so even someone like Callistra might pause and go, I'm not worried about the stained glass window, but are they on a quest for vengeance, or are they on a quest for revenge? And that's the kind of thing that might interest her.
Yeah, I think it might. I'm tempted to keep that interest alive. The Callistrian influence does come up later in the campaign.
Yeah, okay.
For its own reasons.
Yeah, okay.
It is a prominent temple in Greengold,
yes.
And Greengold, when it comes back in a couple of times, yeah, there's definitely interesting things we'll see coming down the line. And yes, deities, these are not hypothetical distant deities. They don't walk the mortal realm, but they definitely pay attention to it.
Yeah.
In Golarion. And she's an interesting goddess in the sense that she's not a chaotic revenge seeker. She's interested in just revenge for those who have slighted her and her followers, more than anything. But yeah, other Callistrian in Age of Ashes, there's a Callistrian Waygate where there was someone took revenge against vengeance against their own lover for cheating when they hadn't cheated, and was punished with um, uh, some significant consequences. And it's just sort of a backstory item that the GM sees, and players may never even be aware of. It's a ghost who's haunted by this because rejected by Calistria for that action. Calistria is a really interesting deity.
And what I've come to appreciate with Galarian, especially as we've spent so much time playing in the world, is they include the deities often in the structure of both the mortal world, the role of temples and churches, the significance of different religions in different cities, and sort of who holds sway and who's more of a minor sort of religious presence and such. But the fact that they could still be causing a bit of a rub, or there could be a bit of a political sort of game happening there, that if that's interesting to you in your table, then you can include those things. But I really find in Galarian, it just seems like with the deities, it's a bit of a rock in the pond. You can make ripples, and the ripples may not reach the other shore and may not be noticed. But if you're making ripples often enough, someone's going to come and say, "Okay, who's disturbing the water?" And they're gonna look for you. And that's just a super simplified sort of a description of it in my own terms. But that's one way that I look at it. It's like, yeah, it's not about them getting directly involved. It's not about them caring about every little skirmish or even big scale conflict that might happen between two nations. But if you're making ripples in the water that affects their portfolios or their pantheon, then yeah, they might take notice of you. And especially as you get to that higher level, when you act, your ripples are much bigger than others.
Yes. I want to talk briefly just about, and I know we already talked about this, mentioned it, but I just want to talk about how much I had fun today. Like, for me, this was the most fun episode we've had so far, I think, that I recall.
I agree. Everybody was in a super good mood. Everybody was keen to play. The runtime was great because it was quick. You made an ask. Let's keep the combat turns quick, and for the most part they did. They were really just on top of it and what they need to do. Sure, the dice went their way, so of course that sped things up as well. But it was like a perfect meal of role playing and action and dice and world building, all of it together in a nice contained little container. And I found that was very satisfying for me as well. And yeah, the happiness and enjoyment was evident for everybody.
There's another thing I'd like to make express, which is, as a game runner, game master, there's a value in when your villain's plans fail, when the players prevail, there is a certain value in pretending to be set back, even if they know you're pretending.
That's right.
I do that often in the home game as well. I feign frustration at my evil plans not coming to fruition. Maybe it's a style thing, but I've always enjoyed player reactions to that, and I think it does amp up their feelings of taking value in their successes when you play it that way as a GM. I think there are other ways to do it. Direct praise of what they've accomplished is also helpful. Acknowledgement that they've been clever and they've been successful is great, and the in-game rewards are also important. But all of that reinforces enjoyment of the game, I think. So I just wanted, for the purpose of these after the war sessions, part of it is game master strategy and techniques. I wanted to mention that specifically as something I try to do.
And yeah, everything you just mentioned is spot on. And I'll just add to that is that what I've liked, and I hope that for some they may have picked up on it, that I feel like we've done an excellent job of just kind of walking the walk when it comes to good etiquette at the table, and how to just, like you say, encourage the players, support the players, be firm when you need to be firm in terms of like, okay, let's keep this swift, let's keep things moving so everybody's getting time to have fun. But I've just been very impressed with just the etiquette of the players, your etiquette as a game runner as well. And it's just, in my mind, it's just been a really strong example to follow. And that's not us singing high praise, saying that our game is worth modeling after. But I just found that it's been all of that has come together so well. And every episode, just the players come prepared, they come engaged, they come respectful, but they come to have fun. and it's evident if you spend any amount of time watching the episodes that we've presented so far, it's quite evident in the laughs and the joy that they're having.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Jason. And as I increasingly become aware of how many hours you put in editing and producing, I would also like to express appreciation. They come across pretty clean when you edit them, and it's magic to me. So, and it's a huge time commitment on your part. So I just want to again thank you for that.
You're very welcome. This is the longest series I've worked on yet. So I'll be proud to have that under my belt when it is all said and done, but it is not done yet. And so when you're in the thick of it, yeah, it's just a week in and week out. You're like, okay, the episodes are piling up, and you got to make sure we keep up on it and to keep to a pretty brisk weekly schedule, which doesn't seem like a big commitment, but when you're doing the editing and such week to week, it is a lot of work, and I don't try and hide that or dismiss it. Full props to anybody who records and edits the actual plays for the games that they are a part of or that they're looking at. It is the hidden side of it that often isn't called out or spoken about or really seen, and the skill involved and the time commitment involved, as you say, is significant. And I'm somebody with a family and a full-time job and some other creative pursuits, and so it constantly conflicts with everything else going on, and the pride for me is seeing the finished game and seeing how good it looks. The pride for me is also just honoring the commitment that I made to try and get it going. But yeah, it's some weeks it's busy for sure.
Well, and I've dragged you into more episodes than I initially promised you I would try to keep to. So, and
I warned you that there'd be more episodes than you planned for. So I'm a willing victim in that regard. That I fully came into going. He thinks he can do this, but it's not going to work quite the way he wants.
I am going to try and curtail the final 2 chapters of this book, and still capture the magic of it. This is going to be an experiment the next couple of sessions to see if I can do that.
Yeah, that's the what do we call it? The joy. It's almost more the work in the moment, but the challenge, I guess, in terms of if you see the challenge as something positive to pursue, as you are learning and growing as somebody who is producing and creating an actual play, not just running a game at a table as you would for a home table or a private game, even going to like Gen Con and running a table for a group of strangers. It's still just, that one day, that one game, that one table with those one group of players, and then it's over at the end, right? This, you're getting to do it over and over and over again each week, and you probably feel the actual play muscles growing and changing as you're doing it, because you're starting to remember things, or you're like, I'm going to do it differently going forward, or I'm going to remember this for next time. That still happens for me each time that we do one of these sessions. Things I'm like, okay, I got to remember that for next time, or I want to do this differently next time. Even as I'm going through it, because I've been editing so many more episodes than I've ever done previously. I'm like, okay, I could do this differently, or I could do this better, or give myself more time, and so that I can have more time to be as creative as I can with it and do those things, so I don't have to sacrifice for time and so forth. Those actual play muscles do grow the more you get to do it, and it's more of that reflection after the hard work gets put in. You get to look back on it and just enjoy it for what it is. You can really be proud of what came of it. It's that greater than the sum of its parts, because it only comes together through the collaboration of everybody involved, the players, the game runner, me behind the scenes, right? Dungeon Scrawlers supporting us with the channel. All of that contributes to the success of it, and just the polish of it, where it looks effortless, as you say, and looks like it's came together so easily. Oh, that doesn't look bad. That doesn't look hard at all. Well, if that's the case, that's the magic. Then we've done a good job of doing that.
Right, and your choice is either edit after the fact, stream it as without edit.
Live is with all the warts, absolutely.
And then the live stream, which would be way more intimidating.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's I talked about this once before, building up my practice and my confidence and my skill to get to the point where if I ever want to try a live stream, I feel confident that I could minimize the dead air and minimize the rule lookups and just be able to adapt on the fly for little changes, still keeping an eye on the clock. And if there's a goal for this to be a 3-hour stream, okay, it's got to be in 3 hours. And if it's going to be a multi-episode show, knowing where the breakpoint's going to be and getting there on time. And I'd
play in a live stream of yours if you invited me.
Well, I'm not there yet, but when I get there one day, absolutely.
I'll pressure you to do it real soon.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure you will. So I just won't take your call. It's fine.
Yeah. Fair enough. That's you as per usual.
Any other closing thoughts for this episode of the Spore War Actual Play?
No, I think I captured the joy of the moment and some of the things that I tried to do consciously. The rest of it was all subconscious and just part of the natural dynamic of the group. So people will watch it and enjoy it. I think it was a good episode.
And just the bruising of all the hard work you put in prepping, and then it was all over before you even got to.
This one was not too bad because I'd done the reading on the social dynamic way ahead of time and refreshed. I did have time to prepare the map and the tokens and stuff, and the map was pre-published, but the tokens and placement and that makes it go smoother. But this one was not so bad as that initial read through to try and understand the social mechanic. It's a little daunting, but I don't want to over exaggerate how hard it was. Even that, it was a joy to read because it's so well done in this example.
Yeah.
They did a great job with this chapter one.
Yeah, we talked about the complexities being a challenge, but the complexity is also the depth of the writing of the adventure path. So that it is a good thing for sure.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Jason. I appreciate it.
Thank you to everyone for taking some time to spend with us and enjoy this latest episode of After the War. One more time, my name is Jason Collins. I'm a freelance comic book writer, tabletop role-playing game designer, actual play producer, and streamer. You can find links to my work, the other actual plays I've been a part of, and my fantasy comic Thistle on my link tree at digital_Collins.
And I'm Seneschal. Thanks so much for watching.
Thanks, everybody.